It's pretty incredible that we're already at the three-quarter mark of the 2024-25 OHL season. At points, it just feels like it's flying by, but now we're in that final stretch towards the 2025 OHL playoffs. Still a lot of positions up for grabs. At this point, we only have two teams that have clinched a playoff spot so far, that being the London Knights and the Kitchener Rangers. So I've been doing this through the season at each quarter mark just to take a look at who are the league leaders and just going over some of the numbers. As I'm a stats person, I love just going over the numbers like this, and just thought I'd put it into a video. So here we go. Your division leaders at this point, we've got the London Knights who are leading the way. They have 81 points. They're only 2 points up, though, on the Kitchener Rangers, so the Midwest Division. Still quite the battle, although the London Knights, at the time of recording, have 4 games in hand on the Kitchener Rangers. So 4 very important games there for London. The Windsor Spitfires, they continue to lead the West Division, and don't expect that to probably change between now and the playoffs, because the Windsor Spitfires have a 19-point lead over the second place Saginaw Spirit. And then when you shift to the Eastern Conference, the Barrie Colts, they're at the top spot in the Central Division, now 9 points up on the Niagara Ice Dogs. Last time I did this video, the race in the Central was down within a few points, but now a 9-point gap there between the Barrie Colts and the Niagara Ice Dogs. And in the East Division, that one is going down to the wire. It's the Oshawa Generals, who right now have a 2-point lead on both Brantford and Kingston. Now, the Kingston Frontenacs, they do have a game in hand over Brantford and Oshawa. So like I said, expect that one to go right down to the wire to decide who's going to win the East Division, because all three of those teams playing some really good hockey right now. So that's your division leaders. And now looking at some more of the stats. First off, when you look at the goals for department, it's the Saginaw Spirit who are leading the way in that category. 231 goals for. That Saginaw team in the second half have really started to pick up the pace. And it's not really much of a surprise, because for Saginaw, throughout the regular season, their offense has scored in bunches. It's just keeping the pucks out of the net, which has been one of the bigger concerns for the team. But still, it's fun just to see how things are going to end up going down to the wire. And then the team giving up the fewest goals at this mark is the London Knights, 127 goals against. So the defense getting the job done for the Knights, who, of course, are the top team right now in the Ontario Hockey League standings. Looking at specialty teams, it's always interesting to see which teams have figured it out with the specialty teams. It's the Brantford Bulldogs, who have the top power play right now in the Ontario Hockey League, operating at 27.7%. And right behind them, tied for second, are the London Knights, Kingston Frontenacs, and Saginaw Spirit. They all have a 26% success rate on the man advantage. But then looking at the other end of the spectrum for teams that are struggling with the power play, it's the Sarnia Sting. It's only operating at 13.2%. The Sarnia Sting, they have been playing a little better since the OHL trade deadline. They've had a couple losses of late, but still, if that team's going to challenge in the Western Conference, specialty teams will have to improve. And then 19th in power play right now, the Peterborough Petes, 14.4%. The Petes right now at the bottom of the OHL standings. And then the Flint Firebirds, surprisingly, have the 18th ranked power play unit. That's at 14.6%. So a little surprise there on some of the teams being at the bottom. But then when we look at the penalty kill, the top team in that department, the Kitchener Rangers, operating at 85%. Their penalty kill has been solid for most of the season. So really not surprising to see Kitchener there at the top. The London Knights, another team that's doing well with the penalty kill, operating at 84.7%. And the Brantford Bulldogs, 83.6%, with the third best penalty kill unit in the OHL. And I really feel as though with the improvement on specialty teams for Brantford is why that team has rocketed up the Eastern Conference standings and right now challenging for top spot in that East Division. Because at the start of the regular season, Brantford was having some issues with specialty teams, but they've really sorted things out. But I think the big factor, too, is that they've become healthy, which is helping them out a lot. Now, at the other end of the spectrum for the penalty kill, the team struggling the most is Ottawa. The 67s have a 68% penalty kill. That is not going to cut it, especially if you're a team trying to clinch a playoff spot. Right now, Ottawa 9th in the East. They're tied with North Bay, but the Battalion do have that tiebreaker. And penalty kill is something that's going to bite you. I know for Ottawa, they don't take a lot of penalties, but still, it's not reassuring that when you're going on the penalty kill, more often than not, that puck's going to find the back of the net. Another surprise is the Brampton Steelheads. Their penalty kill ranked 19th in the OHL at 72.6%. A Steelheads team that was thought to be a contender before the regular season. This team, if they are serious about contending, they really need to lock things down on that penalty kill. And then at 18, it's the Sarnia Sting, 74.9%. So the Sarnia, a team, specialty teams, just not doing them any favors at this point of the season. Now let's shift over to player stats. Leading the way in goals, Nick Lardis, 52 goals on this season. Of course, setting a new franchise record for the Brantford Bulldogs. Following him is Michael Misa. He has 44 goals. You have to expect that Misa is going to break the 50-goal mark this season, just with the pure offense that the Saginaw Spirit have. And then third in goals, we've got a three-way tie. We've got Liam Greentree and Ilya Protas of the Windsor Spitfires. They both have 35 goals. And then Ryan Robrick of the Niagara Ice Dogs makes an appearance with 35 goals. So Nick Lardis, of course, he has been a big story this season with his goal-scoring capabilities. But Michael Misa also having a solid year. And he leads the league actually in assists. He has 55 assists on the season, tied with Patrick Thomas of the Brantford Bulldogs. I feel like we don't talk about Patrick Thomas enough, as we're going to hear his name a few times here with the stats leader category. After that, though, we've got Henry Muse of the Sudbury Wolves. He's got 54 assists on the season, which leads all defensemen in assists as well. So Henry Muse, of course, he was acquired from the Ottawa 67s at the trade deadline. And Sudbury Wolves, they've been struggling of late, just 2 wins over their last 10 games. And if they can get Henry Muse to produce, this team should be able to turn things around, maybe challenge for home ice in the first round of the playoffs. We'll have to wait and see, although time's becoming a factor here because it's going to be a dogfight in the Eastern Conference standings with at least 7 teams showing that they mean business going into the playoffs this year. And the Sudbury Wolves, one of those teams right now in the thick of it. So when it comes to points, this is going to be a fun race, I think, to the finish because Michael Misa, 99 points, one away from 100. Which is pretty solid for the draft-eligible centerman. Michael Misa, of course, expected to go maybe top 5 in the upcoming NHL draft, so he's got some solid numbers. And then Nick Lardis, he is second in points with 86, tied with Liam Greentree of the Windsor Spitfires. So Misa, Lardis, Greentree, all having fantastic years. Ilya Protas, he's also right there, 4th in points with 79. And then Porter Martone and Patrick Thomas both have 77 points to round out to the top 5 in points in the Ontario Hockey League. Another area that I think people don't really take too serious is the plus-minus category, but I do think it says a lot about a player being on the ice more often than not when a goal goes in, and it's a two-way tie right now. Plus 44 is Christian Epperson of the Saginaw Spirit and Jared Woolley of the London Knights. So they lead that category. After that, we have Anthony Cristoforo. He has a plus 40, so not too bad there for the Windsor Spitfires defenseman. And then a pair of London Knights, Sam O'Reilly and Sam Dickinson. They are 4th and 5th in plus minus. O'Reilly a plus 39 and Dickinson a plus 38. So you would expect the top team in the league to have multiple players in the top 5 of that category. And that's why we see Woolley, O'Reilly, and Dickinson. Heading over to penalty minutes, this category has been interesting to follow because for the first half of the season, it was Chase Coughlin of Sudbury and Gabriel Eliasson of Barrie who are leading the way in penalty minutes. But that's changed. We have a new leader when it comes to penalty minutes, and it's Matthew Adanovsky of the Kitchener Rangers. 106 penalty minutes. He does play with an edge. We saw that last night against the Oshawa Generals. Second is Noah Roberts. This one kind of surprised me. Of course, he's traded from Brantford to Sudbury. He has 103 penalty minutes. Then Connor Clattenburg of the Flint Firebirds. He is third with 95 penalty minutes. And then Gabriel Eliasson of the Barrie Colts. He's 4th right now in penalty minutes in the OHL. And that's with 94. So some change there at the top of the category. I thought that was a little bit surprising here at the 3-quarter mark. Shifting to power play goals, Nick Lardis. It's kind of not surprising to see him at the top of this category, but it's 18 power play goals that Nick Lardis has with the Brantford Bulldogs. Second in that category, Ethan Procession of the North Bay Battalion. It's nice to see North Bay represented on these stats categories. He has 15 power play goals this year. And then Luca Pinelli, he was leading this category earlier in the season. He right now has 14 power play goals. So that's third most in the OHL. And typically, I don't look at shorthanded goals all that often just because we usually have several players tied for the league in that category. But right now, Marco Mignosa of the Sioux Greyhounds, alone with 5 shorthanded goals at the top of the category. So it's good to see Mignosa making the cut there. After that, we got Nathan Villeneuve and Michael Misa. They both have 4 shorthanded goals for. So Michael Misa, again, making an appearance here with the top stats. As for game-winning goals, that category right now being led by Nick Lardis. He has 9 game winners. Michael Misa, he has 7 game-winning goals to his credit. And then after that, there's a long list of players with 6 game-winning goals. So I'm not going to go over all those players, but I did think it's important to mention that Lardis and Misa at the top of the category when it comes for game-winning goals. And then going towards shots on net, I always find this one fascinating. What player is getting the most shots on goal during the regular season? And that's Nick Lardis, 288 shots on goal. This feels like a Nick Lardis episode here on the channel. After that, in second is Ryan Robrick of the Niagara Ice Dogs, 229 shots. Kieran Walton of the Sudbury Wolves, he is third in shots in the OHL with 219, and right behind him with 218 is Michael Misa. So Kieran Walton also making an appearance here with the leading categories. Now, shooting percentage, I feel like says a lot more about a player being more specific with their shot. And Angus McDonnell, he leads the way from the Brampton Steelheads. 29% is his shooting percentage, so some pretty solid numbers for him. Remember, though, that McDonnell did miss a large chunk of the first half of the regular season, but he came back to the Steelheads lineup, and he's been finding the back of the net with some consistency. So McDonnell leading the way there. And then Landon Sim, second in shot percentage, 25.9%. And then Evan Van Gorp on the London Knights. I thought that was nice to see him up here, 25.4%. So what stands out to me with all the London Knights we've mentioned is how it's not just one player with London leading the way in any of these categories. It's a team effort. We're seeing a variety of players being well represented, but then the argument could then be, well, London's the top team in the OHL, so you would expect that. But I just think it's interesting. You got Landon Sim and Evan Van Gorp, 2 of the top 3 when it comes to shooting percentage right now in the Ontario Hockey League. So after that, I want to look at Faceoff wins because it is fascinating just to see which players do well in the Faceoff dot. And it's Pano Femus of the Erie Otters. He leads the way, 705 faceoffs taken. Then it's Cedric Gandon of the Kingston Frontenacs with 631. And Patrick Thomas appears again for the Brantford Bulldogs with 579 faceoffs taken. So not too bad there. All 3 of them having solid faceoff percentages this season in the OHL. And then when you look at the faceoff attempts, Cedric Gandon, he leads the way. 1,163 faceoffs, followed by Pano Femus, so no surprise there, 1,121. And then Andre Loshko, he was leading the way in the faceoff department to start the regular season from the Niagara Ice Dogs. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, although the Ice Dogs continue to put him in the faceoff circle. 1,114 faceoffs this year. His faceoff percentage hovering just around 51%. So Loshko doing a great job in the faceoff circle, but we're starting to see his numbers tail off a little bit here. Now, shifting our focus to goaltenders, you're going to notice a common theme with a goaltender who's going to be in a lot of these categories. Starts with wins, and that's Jackson Parsons of the Kitchener Rangers. 30 wins. He's the only goaltender to reach that mark so far this season because second is Joey Costanzo of the Windsor Spitfires. He has 28 wins this season. And then Jacob Oster, he is third in wins with 25. Now, remember, Jacob Oster was OHL Goaltender of the Year last year, and I feel like he's got some competition this year as Jackson Parsons leads the way in that category. For shutouts, again, Jackson Parsons, he has 4 shutouts on the season. That's number 1 in the OHL. Nolan Lalonde of the Sioux Greyhounds, I was a little surprised by this. He has 3 shutouts, so that puts him in a tie for second with Joey Costanzo of the Windsor Spitfires. So both those goaltenders have 3 shutouts on the season. So I was a little surprised by that to see Nolan Lalonde up there, but he's also tied for the league lead in goalie goals with Carter George. So Nolan Lalonde some respectable numbers on that front. Now, when it comes to goals against average, Jackson Parsons leads this category as well. He has a 2.26 goals against average. That's the best in the league. Austin Elliott of the London Knights, he makes an appearance. He has a 2.30 goals against average. And then Ben Hrebeck of the Barrie Colts, he's been a big surprise this season. He is third in goals against at 2.33. So Ben Hrebeck making an appearance here on the report card. And he also makes an appearance on save percentage because Ben Hrebeck, number one in that category, is a .932 save percentage. So in 23 games of work, he's been Mr. Reliable between the pipes for the Barrie Colts this season. Second in save percentage is Alexei Medvedev of the London Knights, .922 save percentage for him. And then Jackson Parsons, he is third in save percentage at .921. And for goaltenders that are kept busy, I think this is also an important stat to look at is minutes played. Nathan Day of the Flint Firebirds, he leads the way, 2,560 minutes. And then Jackson Parsons, the second busiest goaltender in the OHL, 2,544 minutes. And then Jacob Oster, 2,405 minutes. That's third most in the league. But remember, Jacob Oster, I believe at this time last year when I did a video looking at the stats, the report card, he was the goaltender leading the way. So Oshawa not playing him as much, but still third most in the league. And that's where you kind of start to wonder, is a team playing a goaltender too much? Because you don't want fatigue to become a factor, especially come playoff time. So Jackson Parsons, he's been playing a lot of minutes. He's an older goaltender who's going to tell you he wants the net. He wants the crease night in, night out. But now that they've clinched a playoff spot, you kind of wonder, are they going to start to maybe give him fewer games just to rest up for the postseason? Same goes for Jacob Oster, although last year he played a lot of minutes for the Oshawa Generals as well. When it comes to saves, though, leading the way is Owen Flores of the Niagara Ice Dogs. He's had to make 1,328 saves so far in the season. Then it's Jackson Parsons, second. See, Parsons is appearing in almost every goaltending category. He has 1,113 saves. And then third, Nate Krawchuk of the Sudbury Wolves with 1,077 saves. So those are the stats from the goaltenders. And I think if you had to pick somebody who could be an MVP candidate for the season for the OHL, you got to give some consideration, I think, to Jackson Parsons. If I had to pick three players to be nominated for that category, Jackson Parsons would be up there, along with Nick Lardis of the Brantford Bulldogs, and then probably go with Michael Misa of the Saginaw Spirit. Those would probably be my three picks for MVP of the season. But things can change between now and the end of the regular season. But it is fun to look at all the stats and how teams are doing at the three-quarter mark of the OHL regular season. So let me know in the comments down below who's been standing out to you this year. Who would you pick as the MVP of this season for the Ontario Hockey League? Love to see the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We'll talk to you again soon.